What's going on, students? Mr. McDonald here with a short lesson for you guys on logical fallacies. This is going to be the last thing that we learn on fallacies. On logic for Unit 1. As far as this year goes, next year, I don't know if you're watching this video, we'll have to see where we're at. So, logical fallacies are basically um, ideas or explaining mechanisms or arguments that seem convincing but actually don't prove what they state by logic. They use some other mechanism, which could be manipulation, it could be a trick, or it could be nonsense that confuses people. Either case, it's not great to use a logical fallacy, whether you're preaching, teaching, um, and it's also not good to believe logical fallacies if someone presents one. And there are quite a few going around these days. So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to put together just 5. And I know some of you guys got this teaching earlier in your high school career or even in other grades or schools, but I wanted to bring about 5 of either the most commonly used ones or the ones that I find being the most destructive right now in our culture, and I want to give them to you. And you'll have a short assignment after these notes. So make sure you're taking notes because I will test you on at least these 5 fallacies. So, logic is the bedrock of human knowledge. It is the tool used in all reasoning and philosophy. Therefore, it's important to learn to do it well, to think logically, that is. Therefore, I'm going to share with you these small but potent sample of the most common and devastating forms of bad logic. First one is the most famous one that's always discussed and talked about. That's called ad hominem. An ad hominem fallacy is Latin for the word to the person. In other words, your attack is going to the person instead of their argument. It's pronounced ad hominem. And it is one of the most common fallacies. And it's also a very common debate tactic, but a very weak one. The only thing probably worse than this in a debate is just simply name calling. So if you go back to ad hominem and name calling, you've sort of lost the debate or lost the intent on arguing with reason. So basically, an ad hominem is attacking the speaker directly instead of their argument. And again, this could be a rhetorical strategy. If you are debating someone to win an audience, you can attack their character or attack their expertise. And sometimes, actually, that makes a lot of sense depending on the situation. However, if you're reasoning with someone to get to the truth, which is why we generally argue and discuss something, it would be a bad idea to attack their ethos or the actual person. That being said, the reason is because a person can have a bad personality or can be made a lot of mistakes, but their argument could still be right. I'm sure you guys have heard the expression, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Well, just because a person might have made a lot of mistakes or might be a bad person, it doesn't mean that what they're saying is wrong. So, for example, you might meet the worst person, the most evil person on earth. You run into Adolf Hitler one day and he says the sky is blue. Well, the sky is blue, and him being Adolf Hitler and a terrible evil person does not negate the true fact of what he just said. So that's ad hominem. Here I have a quote from Margaret Thatcher. If you don't know who Margaret Thatcher is, get acquainted with this woman. Just a really intelligent speaker. I believe she was a prime minister of Britain during the Reagan era. She says, I always cheer up immensely if an attack is particularly wounding, like an ad hominem attack, because I think, well, if they attack one personally, it means that they have not a single political argument left. So you kind of see how it works. When your arguments don't work, you attack the person. So avoid that one if you can. Next one is actually kind of a category of fallacies. So there's a lot of them involved here, but this one is called an appeal to emotion. An appeal to emotion is basically using emotion in place of reason to win over an audience. Appeals to emotion can be very manipulative, as untrained thinkers will react to emotion before they will react to logic. So the most famous kind of appeal to emotion is think about the children. Think about our children. Arguments, on the political spectrum, frequently go to discussions about children in the future, because that way the person presenting the argument knows if the opponent tries to argue against what they're saying, they can say, "You don't care about children?" Does that make sense? So we need to teach um, communism to high schoolers as the truth, as the best political theory, in order to secure the future of our children. And then the opponent will say, communism is actually a great evil and it's killed 100 million people in the last century. And then the reply would be, "Are you saying you don't care about our children?" Right. Okay. So there's a couple fallacies in there. But the main thing I want you guys to understand is that's an appeal to emotion. And although something can be emotionally charged, does not mean that it's right or wrong. A common one I get on this, and I can say this in a Christian school because most everyone agrees with this, is on the issue of abortion. As a pastor, periodically I have to touch base on issues like that have deceived our culture. And I have had people above me who have spoken to me and said, do not speak about abortion because you may make a woman who's had an abortion feel very bad. And that is an emotional argument. Yeah, they very well may feel bad for me bringing up something that was maybe a very grave mistake in their past. However, it's not my stating the truth that makes that person feel bad. It's what they did. And if they didn't feel bad for that, they would have something wrong with them. So that's an appeal to emotion. Moving forward to number 3. Now, this one, not a lot of people know about, but I hear it all the time. So I really wanted to bring it out to you. Most people actually probably won't know what this is, but this is a Kafka trap. And it comes from a novel called The Trial by a man named Franz Kafka. And essentially, you see him a lot, but it's kind of a manipulation trick more than it is a fallacy. But it goes like this: it's when an accuser uses the denial of the accused as evidence of guilt. So if you look at my meme over here from Monty Python, I believe it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. They're about to kill a witch, like kind of like the Salem witch trials, right? They're going to kill her for being a witch and she denies it. And then they say, denying you're a witch is proof that you're a witch. For witches always deny being witches. And this manifests in many different ways. Someone may say, you know, you're a racist, or I don't know, all sorts of weird accusations. And, then you'll deny it. And then they'll say, haha, your denial is proof that you are guilty of this particular issue. So this is a problem because if someone makes an accusation or a claim, your conclusion is going to be the refutation of that claim. But you cannot take the conclusion of a refutation as evidence that your claim is correct, that your argument is correct, because no matter what, if someone doesn't believe it, they're going to try to refute it if they're, a thinking person. So it's a way of trying to shut someone down intellectually. It's a nasty type of logical manipulation. It's very, very common. Make sure you guys memorize that one. Another one is called an equivocation, and I see these very frequently. This is a manipulation tactic and a fallacy used by cults a lot, where people will change the word meaning in an argument to try to make the argument move forward. So there's a lot of hot topic words right now, and our culture is struggling with an issue called lingual relativism or Worfianism. And the belief is that language shapes your understanding of reality. So if you can change the language on purpose, you can actually change someone's mind without having to argue with them. A very common case of this would have been the quote unquote legalization of gay marriage in California, where in fact gay marriage was never actually illegal. It just simply did not exist. So it wasn't illegal, it just wasn't the definition of marriage. So what the California Supreme Court did against the voters' wishes was they changed the definition of marriage to include people of the same gender. And that way they subverted not only the democratic voting process, but they also subverted the argument by simply changing the definition. That's called an equivocation. It's a manipulation tactic commonly used by cults. It's using the same word but with different meanings in an argument. In the case that I just gave you, the meaning of marriage was changed. So it's sort of like a pun or a double entendre, but it's used for arguing instead of humor. And you see on the sign here, it says, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it. So obviously it's literally a sign, but they're talking about a miraculous sign. So it's two definitions of the word sign being used. And in that case, it's a pun and it's funny, but in an argument, it would be manipulative. Last one I'm going to give you guys is called correlation is not causation. This is a huge one, particularly in sciences. So if you guys study any type of hard science, particularly biology, psychology, really anything that relies on data, you really have to understand this one. And this is kind of hard to wrap your head around, but I want you guys to understand that just because two things are correlated, which means that one happened before the other or they're similar, does not mean that one caused the other. You have to actually prove causation. You have to prove what caused it. So it's when two events or issues are mistakenly believed to have a cause and effect relationship, but they probably don't. Just because two events are similar or linked or correlated does not mean that one caused the other. You have to prove the causation. So the most famous example is here. It is correlation is not causation. Okay, it is basically this graph that shows that ice cream sales and shark attacks follow a similar pattern. And so a correlation causation fallacy would be that if you eat ice cream, you are more likely to be attacked by a shark. And the proof is, look at all the ice cream sales, look at the shark attacks, they follow the same trajectory. Well, the case is actually a third cause, not the correlation, but the cause is that in July and September, it's hot out because it's summer months and people tend to go to the beach and they also tend to eat ice cream. So if you have more people in the water, you're going to have more shark attacks, obviously. If you have more heat, people are going to be eating more ice cream. So they're actually correlated because of a third option, which is the hot weather. And so the one doesn't cause the other. It's the hot weather that causes both. Okay, so that's correlation causation fallacy. Make sure that you guys know that and you understand that. That is hugely important. And people are tricked on this one very frequently and make this mistake a lot. And it drives me nuts. And it drives scientists nuts who are good thinkers. So that's it. Make sure that you guys do the assignment. Make sure that you have these in your notes and you study them for your upcoming test on philosophy and logic. God bless you guys and have a great day.